Hello? Okay, morning everyone. And today we're going to talk about the lab 8. Okay. So please first open your lab questions paper in week 9 OLE. Okay, T08. Today we're going to talk about web application. Okay, so let's look at the exercises first. And the first one is about routine. Okay, and we can have a quick review on the lecture slides. Yeah, so this unit 8, we've talked about routine. Okay, here, routine and URL. Here, so in the questions it asks, what is routine in a web application, and which decorator methods of Flask application object designate routine? Okay, we can simply look at this slide to find out the answers. Okay, you can see in web application, routine is the mechanism that maps the URL or several URLs to specific code that handle requests. Or we say it map URL to some functions, which is called view functions. Okay, so this is routine. And it said which decorator method. Okay, so we are using this method, route method in Flask. Okay, we have like the URL and then the method. Okay, we can use post, get, or other things. Okay, so this is the method we used to designate routine. Okay, it's the route method, the route method. Okay, so this one bind the view function to a certain URL in this way. Okay. Yeah, so very simple question. And then the next question said, assuming a Flask application object called app, write decorators to do the following things. Okay, let's try to do it together. Let's first open create a folder first. Okay, as usual, we create a folder T08. Then we open the Visual Studio. Visual Studio Code. Open folder. Okay, let me first create a file about this exercise. Let's call it like cricket exercises. P21, okay. Yeah. Okay, then let's look at questions. So the first one asks us to bind the function getDataUser to URLs of the form, this one, where Peter is a username. Okay, so we can also look back to the slides when we're talking about forms. And any forms. Okay, so we have two ways. One is called post form, another is called get form. Okay, so the first one is about post form because we are using oh, doesn't matter. Okay, doesn't matter. Get user status. Doesn't matter. This is not very related to forms. Okay, so it's just about decorator. Good. So let's write it together. So we have a function. This one, get status, and enlarge the code here. Okay, so we have a function called this one. Okay, let's do like this. Define a function. Okay, blah blah blah. Okay, then we need to write the decorator. How we write the decorator? So every time we use else, right? Else app dot, and as we said in the first question, we use this root method. Okay, followed by the URL. Okay, so what is the URL? The URL is this one. Status.peter or status/Peter. Okay, we copy paste it. But there's one thing. Here, Peter is the thing that we enter in the web browser, but this is a web variable, okay? So we cannot write this URL as Peter. If we write here as Peter, then every time we must enter Peter in the URL. We cannot customize it, but we need to use a variable, okay? So we need to use define a variable here, user. Okay. Then this user will be passed to this function. Okay. That's it. So we use this one to decorate our view function here. Okay. And then the second question. Find the function show promote name age. Okay, this time we have two variables. Okay, again, copy paste this function. So we might have some lines in this function. And then we write a decorator. Again, app.route. And then this is the URL. Okay. Promote Maggie age. So this is the name and this is the age. Okay. Again, the name is a string, right? So by default, the variable defined here is a string. Okay, name. But the age, it is an integer. Okay. So as I said, by default it's a string. So we need to clearly define the type of the data. So we write int here. Okay. So we need to write int age to define this as an integer. Okay, there it is. That's it. Okay, and then you might have some like warnings, like app is not defined. Why? Because we need to define app at the beginning of the file. Okay, we need to also import the Flask. Okay. So if your computer, because Flask is not a built-in function, a built-in library in Python. Okay, So if you don't have Flask in your computer or in the lab computer, you should first install this library with pipe, okay? Pipe install Flask. Okay, and if you're using the lab computer, you can just use the one with Anaconda, okay? This one. Okay, if you use the Python installed in the computer rather than in the Anaconda, then by default, the original Python doesn't have this Flask library. Okay, but this is a built-in function, a built-in library in Anaconda. Okay. Okay, so we just write part of the code. Okay, we are not writing the whole code here. Okay, just to see how to decorate the view functions. Okay, any questions here? Then let's go talking about form handling. Okay. So here it said there is a form below, submit to and processed by a Flask application. Okay, so we need to write a code segment to extract the name value to a string variable called name and the ID value of an integer variable called ID. Okay, so in these two examples, we are using post method here and then get method here. As I said, having method get instead of post in the form tab. Okay, so this is related to the post form here and get form here. Okay, we just need to use this method request form to get a certain value from the form. Okay, so again, let's do it together. So now we are talking about form handling. Okay, form handling. Previous one is about routing. Okay, form handling. So how we get the name in the form? Okay, we get the name variable, and then we use this request method dot form. Okay, dot form, not dot from. Okay, don't confuse it. And then the place in the form, the placeholder is called name. Okay, so we in this way we extract the name in the form. Okay, and how we extract the number. Okay, we still use this request.form. Okay, and the field in the form is called ID, right? And the ID is an integer, so we need to convert it to integer. Okay, that's it. So this is based on post method. What happens if we want to use the get method? Okay. Again, we need the name of variable. And then if we look at the slide, okay, for get method here, the function we are using is request.arguments.get. Okay. And then again, name. Okay. And then let me just complete it. ID number go to int. So request.arg. Replace this one. Okay. Then we're using the get method to get information from the table. Okay, so you can use either way. But as I said in during the lecture, if we are concerning about the security, okay, then post is better. Because if you are using get method, then your information will be showed in the URL. Okay, so in this way, post is better. Okay, then let's go ahead to the practicals. Yeah, the first one is about addition. Okay, using routine. Okay, so we are just going to try some programs that we talked during the lecture. Okay, so you can try by yourself. I've already uploaded the code in the OLE. Okay, we have 3 codes here. Let's just download it. Plus to do and lab 08. Okay, so let's open this plus press. Okay, so this is just using some web application to provide you about some application to add different numbers together. Okay, so this is the URL. And then let's first run the things, run the code to see what happened. Okay, so as I said, the application itself that you define here is acting as a server. Okay, so once you start the application, the server is running on this default address. Okay, so we just copy paste this address. And then paste in our web browser. Okay, you will see not found. Okay, why? Because we don't have a routine like this. Okay, we don't have this default routine. Our routine is like this. We need to put a plus here, and then we need to put 2 numbers of integers. Okay, so let's do it. So we need to put plus. Okay, so this routine have a view function, but the original one, the default host address, don't have a view function to show you something. Okay, so you cannot find anything in this routine, but you can find something in this routine. Okay, so we put plus here, and then we need to put 2 integers. Okay, for example, we put 3 and 5. Then what happened? You will see that it provides you some application to calculate the summation of the 2 numbers, right? You can change the numbers. For example, 1, 100, okay. Then it will be 101, okay. 10, 5, okay. It will be 15. Okay, very simple. Then let's look at the questions. Now it asks us to review the code, execute the program, open the browser to test web application. Okay, it doesn't matter. And then modify the row decorator to remove the types. Okay, let's try. So now we have int type here, right? We must use int type if we have numbers, integers here. Okay, so let's see what happens if we delete the int, if we delete the type here. Okay, we run it again. Then if we run the previous URL in the web browser, we see this 15 become 105. Why? Because now this application treats this 10 and 5 as string. Okay, so once you add 2 strings together, it just simply concatenates the 2 strings. Okay, so they just put the two strings together, 10 and 5. They put together, it's 110. Oh, sorry, 105. Okay. So that means you must define the type of the integer here. Okay, if you want it to do correctly. Okay, we revert the chains. And then let's look at the next question. Here. Okay, then let's try the minus number. -1 and -3. Will it work? So we still use 10 and 5. Okay, the same idea. If we use -10, -5, you see, this side cannot be reached. Okay? Yeah. Wait, sorry. Yeah, I forgot to run it. Okay. Yeah. Then let's do it again. Okay. I forgot to run, so yeah. That's crap. Not fun. Okay. Because it cannot recognize this minus value, the negative values. So what we need to do is that we need to define the sign of the value as true. Okay, sign true. Then it will be able to recognize negative values. Okay, int. Here, right? Int. Int. Done equal to 2. Okay, done equal to 2. Okay, then run it again. And then also we enter the signal else. Okay, now we are able to recognize negative values and then also to add them together. -10 plus -5, then -15. Okay. So every time when you are giving values to the browser, especially when you are giving integers, you need to make sure that you are defining the type correctly. Okay. For example, integer, and then if you have negative values, you need to put the sign. Okay. Any questions here? Okay. If no questions, let's go ahead to the to-do list. So this example we've already talked during the lecture. Okay, the code here, to do. You can also download from the OLE. Okay, so we have a HTML template here as a to-do list. And then we have 3 routines, okay, for 3 different functions. So when you are using different URLs, you will access the different functions. So let's try to run this server first, okay, this application first. Because I've already explained the details of the code during the lecture, so I'm not going to talk about more details here, okay? We just simply run this application and then we go ahead to the server. Okay. Then you will see what happened is here. We have a to-do list. Okay, and then you can add things to the to-do list. Okay, so for example, have lunch. Okay, this is what you want to do. Okay, and once you update, you upload the things you want to do, there'll be a button. There's a hyperlink followed your item for you to delete the things. Okay. For example. Okay, the 100 increase. Okay. And you can also delete it. Okay. You can delete both. Okay. I can add it back. Okay, and there are 2 things here. Okay. So this part here is called the table, if you still remember. Table. Okay, and this part here for you to collect data is called form. Okay, so you have a table here and a form here. You are putting data in the form and then upload to the server and display in the table. Okay, that's the main idea. So now you can have a try by yourself. So every time when you are you are putting something, you are submitting something to the application server, you will get some response from the server. Okay, with get method or post method, and then the code is 200, means the request has been due properly or successfully. Okay, so now I'll give you some time for you to try by yourself of this example. Okay, so I think you've already tried, and maybe let's talk about some part of the code again. Okay, so we can see in this, as I said, we have a table here and the form here, right? So then in the table we have three things: ID, item, and URL, right? So as we showed here. ID, the item, and a URL, the hyperlink to delete something. Okay, and this delete, this one, is the name of the delete here. Okay, so you can customize by yourself. Just change the element here. Okay, so for example, we put like delete one. Okay, and then we run it again. Okay. Oh, I forgot to run the server. Okay, and then this delete button will be delete one, right? So this is the thing you can customize by yourself. Okay, and then so we have 3 items in the display page. Okay, and these 3 items is also defined here. Okay, when you put the items to the to-do list. And then how we combined this delete button to the delete method. Okay, we are using the URL for here. Okay, so you can treat this part as the delete button, and this is the function for the delete button because this URL for redirect. Sorry, this is the link. It provides you the link to this route. Okay, so every time you click this delete here, actually you are clicking the URL here. Okay, then it will provide you the function of to delete some items in the to-do list. Okay, so this is just something I want to mention again. Okay, so let's just revert the change. Okay, we revert the change, and then it will be back. Okay. Okay, then let's go ahead to look at your assignment today. Here, the last practical assignment about account. Okay, so the main idea of the function of this account is similar with the one you've done last week. Okay, I mean the main idea is similar, but now we are going to achieve it by web application like this one. Okay, so in your main page, in the display page, you have 2 elements. Okay, this is the title. Actually, this is a table. Okay, and then this is the form. So the same idea as the to-do list. You put things in the form. Okay, so you send the data from the form to the server, and then server display your data in the table. Okay, this is the main idea. So let's look at the details. So now it asks you to write a Flask application to perform deposit and withdraw operations in an account. Okay, the account balance, the deposit amount, and the withdraw amounts are integers. Okay, of course. And then I think there's a small difference compared with the previous assignment. It's like this. The withdrawal is only carried out when the existing balance is sufficient. Okay, so in this case, our account balance should always be over, be more than 0 or 0. Okay, it might be positive or 0. So always see the balance that you have must be greater than your withdrawal amount. Okay. So we need to write a template for generating the HTML output. So we need to write a template for this one, for this page, okay? So this template, we have four main components. The current account balance, okay, the current account balance here, balance 85, for example. And then the last transaction, so what you've done in the last transaction, for example, last transaction, you withdraw 100, okay? And then a form for performing deposit and a form for performing withdrawal, okay? So you have two forms here. Okay, one is to perform deposit, another is for withdrawal. Each one has a button, okay? Okay, it said a partial incomplete template is like this, okay? But don't worry, I've already provided you in OLE. Okay, lab 08, this is your assignment. Okay, this one, account prototype. If you download it, the name will be changed to account prototype. Sorry, I forgot to change the name. So I've already give you the whole code for the template, okay? So you can write it directly. You don't need to do by yourself. Okay? And then another thing here is that the last transaction is a description of the last deposit or withdrawal operation. So it has three forms. Okay? I would say it has three formats. Okay? So instead that you're confused with these forms and these forms. Okay, here this form means format. Okay, format. So, for example, if you withdraw or deposit 42, okay, the last transaction will show you that deposit 42. Okay, if you withdraw 42, then the last transaction will be withdraw 42. And then, oh, sorry, wait a minute. And then the special case here is that if you don't have enough balance in your account, for example, if you only have less than $42 in your account, and then you want to withdraw 42, then it will give you information of failed. Okay, so the last transaction will be withdraw 42, but failed. Okay, so these are the information that will be displayed in this part, last transaction, okay, according to your last transaction. And this is an example that you should achieve, okay? And then here's some hints. So this balance and transaction, okay, they are global variables. So you need to use them to keep the balance and the last transaction. So the last balance is an integer, okay? The last transaction, the balance is an integer, and the last transaction is a string. But both of them are global variables that will be used in multiple functions. Okay, so this is a point. Okay, so this is all the requirements for this assignment, and then let's try to do it together. Okay. So again, so here, so please first download this lab 08, okay? Lab 08 in OLE, okay, this one. And if after then you open it, you will see the instructions that I've put here, okay? And then this is a template, okay? You don't need to change it. So let's start with some global variables. And in general, we have three functions here as usual. Okay, one is for display. The second one is for deposit. The third one is for withdrawal. Okay, so actually the second and third one will be very similar. Okay, we'll look at it later. So firstly, let's first define the the two global variables. Okay, one is balance. Balance. Okay, the initial value of the balance should be 0. And then last transaction. Last. Okay. The initial string of the last transaction should also be empty string. Okay. Okay, do like this, doesn't matter. Okay, so we define global variables of the balance and last transaction that we need to use through the whole program. Okay, and then let's do the display routine. Okay, this is the first display routine, and this is its view function. Okay, so at the beginning we need to render render the template string. Okay, what is template string? This one. Okay, we need to render this one to display it. So how we render it? We use this function, right? Render. This is what we used before. Render template string. Okay, similar as this one. You can refer to the to-do list. Okay. Okay, and then you have your three elements here, three arguments here. One is your template string, and then your balance, and then your last transaction. Okay, you have three arguments here. And then send the information of balance and last transaction to it. Okay, to this one, with this function. Okay. No, I will do like this. Okay. Okay, so this is first view function for display. Very simple. Then let's talk about the second one, the deposit. Okay, to deposit. Firstly, you need to, again, define the global variables. Okay. I mean, you already defined at the beginning, but now you need to also define one in each functions that you want to use this global variable. Okay, so again we use global. Okay, to indicate that this variable is a global variables, and then this value will be linked to this value. They will be the same variable. Okay, you must use global here. Okay, global balance and last transaction. We can do like this. Okay, this is global variables for balance and last transaction. And then you need to extract the deposit amount value. Okay, with what? With request form. Okay, because we are using this post method here. And if you still remember, for the post method, we need to use this one, request form. Okay, request form of the deposit amount. Okay, actually just amount. Okay, the amount value that you put in the form. Okay, and then convert it to integer. Okay, after you convert it to integer, you just need to add amount to the balance. Very simple. You add this amount that you extract from the form to the balance here. Okay, and then you need to display the information for the last transaction. Okay, with f integer. You can write an f integer like this. Okay, you need to have operation plus amount inside. Okay, and then redirect to the account information page. Okay, so I would say this one, this routine is the account information. Okay, account information page. You need to, after you finish the deposit, you need to redirect to the account information page. Okay, and then let's talk about the last function, withdraw. So this one will be similar with deposit. The only difference is that there will be some conditional statement here. Okay, so again, we need to define the global variables of balance and last transaction. Okay, so we extract the here is the withdraw value. Okay, sorry, withdraw amount value and then convert to integers. Okay, the thing. And then after that, you need to check if there's enough money in your account. Okay, so if you need to check if the amount value is less than balance or not. Okay, if the amount is less than the balance, then it means you have enough money in the account. Then you subtract the amount from the balance. Okay, and then information display with this one. Okay, the same thing. With F string. Okay, and then if there's no information, there's not enough money, then information display for failing. Okay, could be like this. Okay, this one, and then you need to write something like failed. Okay. Okay, and then in the end, redirect to the account information page, similar with what we've done in the deposit, and that's it. Okay. Yeah. So I think it's just like the end of this class, and this will be a homework. Okay. Yeah, I forgot to upload link here, I think. This is lab 8. Okay. Then next Monday. Next Monday. This is 8. Okay. So now it's the end of this class, and yeah, see you next week. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know.